What's up, y'all? Coach Dan Palacios of Kinetic Training here on Kinetic Konnections. We have a super cool guest today on Kinetic Konnections, a gentleman named Sam Schaefer, former Air Force veteran, now adaptive athlete and coach. This guy is the epitome of fight and stick to it and just freaking make it happen. We're both connected through the breath belt, which is a tremendous modality that we both utilize in our own programming for our personal training, as well as training our clients. Sam, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and let us know what it is you've been up to, and then we'll take it from here, man.
All right. Yeah, like you said, my name's Sam Schaefer. I'm 31, and I guess a lot of where it gets interesting is, I'm an Air Force vet. I was not for very long, I was in the combat control training pipeline when I sustained an injury that turned out to lead to a pretty significant nerve condition that cut that short. So I never actually went all the way. I was not a controller. I was just in the training pipeline. I was about a year in on that one. And then the nerve condition is called complex regional pain syndrome, led to a med board. And honestly, like I said, a lot of what Dan probably is going to find interesting here. After I left the military, I got into coaching. CrossFit was kind of the thing that I was introduced before the military that really got me through all that training. For example, when I was in selection, I fractured my femur in one of the first few days, and 100% put just like the grittiness that I learned from CrossFit, as that's the thing that taught me how to finish up that course with that injury. Got that healed up and then went and did something worse. But yeah, so that I've been coaching for a long time, full-time for most of my 20s. I've been full-time coaching since then. Back in August, the complex regional pain syndrome had devolved to a point that I had been out of treatment options for years. It just basically came down to what I could take care of, what I could manage, and what I could maintain. And that slope just got a little too slippery, and had an elective below knee amputation August 26th of 2020.
Wow, elective. That's a pretty rare situation.
I fought pretty hard. Yeah, I fought pretty hard to get that thing taken off.
Wow.
Yeah, VA was not super. Well, go figure. VA was not super on my side or in my corner on this one. But it turned out it was the right decision. I haven't had a second of complex regional pain syndrome pain since I woke up from surgery.
Well, being that you've probably sustained two of the most painful injury and both acute and chronic, right? I mean, that's pretty impressive to have that level of pain tolerance, be able to push through it. A broken femur, which I would imagine had some level of contributing factors to the eventual surgery. How would you
actually, that was the other leg.
What's that?
The femur was the other leg.
Yeah. Well, I would, like I said, being in the sort of world of corrective therapy and therapeutic modalities, corrective exercise, I would imagine that must have had some level of impact on what eventually happened with the other side and developing the compensations that get you there. But how would you have compared those two things, the fracturing of the femur and then the pain going on afterwards that eventually led to your surgery?
So honestly, like the femur compared to the complex regional pain syndrome, it was night and day. The femur was nothing. Like, honestly, compared to complex regional pain syndrome, the femur was nothing. Take it how you will. That thing actually rates above natural childbirth. So the actual injury,
wow,
like the time that the injury happened that was in my ankle for the complex regional pain syndrome was rough. Like, that was honestly some of the worst ever. Like, I remember I couldn't tap my thigh without my foot having get nauseous pain.
Wow.
That was like what happened on a run when I was at air traffic control school in Biloxi, Mississippi. And and then there's the second part of that where that was a fracture, a sprain, and the nerve damage. That nerve condition then continued to devolve for 9 years before the amputation. So there was the long-term cumulative effect of just because everyone gets complex regional pain syndrome a little different. It all sucks. But everybody, I am someone that I didn't have waves. Like, I had upticks, but I never had moments where I spent 9 years without a second without pain.
Wow.
Like like I said, I try to say this in the least dramatic way possible because we live in a world of hyperbole. But like there was literally just, it always,
Constant.
it was constant for 9 years. And then function started to decrease. Like I got to the point that I couldn't voluntarily choose to move my toes a lot of times.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a lot. Like I said, the amputation was the right call. No
Yes,
question about it. I'm happy about it. Like
for pain to
thrilled.
be at such a level that you electively choose to remove a limb, that's pretty intense, man. And definitely kudos to you on the mental, emotional, psychological roller coaster that must have been.
Yeah, you get to a
make that
point where it's
decision.
like, yeah, you get to a point where it's like, there's not really a choice to make, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh man, this, that, they're like, to me, like, it was literally like, it was, I kind of equate it like this, like, instead of, I don't make a bunch of choices. I make the decision to make progress or I don't. So
Right.
for me, it was just continuing to say yes to that led to all the things that I've learned, led to all the management strategies, all the, everything from the physical to the mental and emotional with like meditation and, just all the different stuff that went into it. And for me, amputation was just another time just saying, do you want to continue to do you want the opportunity for progress?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
So then the amputation, it wasn't, do you want amputation? It was, do you want to make progress?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
well, I
my
mean,
answer is yes.
we talk a lot about the continuum of care and what that looks like for every individual. It's such a subjective experience. Pain itself, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breaking
Yes.
a femur is known to be possibly one of the most painful things a human being can go through. But in your subjective experience, the
It's all
other
right.
injuries were far worse. So,
Yes.
that's what was that experience like for you transitioning then from, oh my God, this is the worst pain I could ever experience, to getting the surgery done, going through all of the therapy I'm sure you had to go through to now become what you've led up to in the last year.
Yeah, where I'm at. Yeah. You're talking like what it was like the transition from constantly in pain to getting out of pain finally.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that emotional release must have been
That
tremendous.
was, oh man, I cried a lot in that first couple of weeks. Like, but like, I just, part of it was guilt. I felt bad. I'm like, I realized like how much more capacity my brain had. And like, my wife, who I love more than anything, I was like, I'm sorry, I've never been able to give you as much of me as I wanted, So like there was that, there was elements like that. And then there was,
how long have you guys been married through that process?
We've been married, I think we're going on 3 years.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So
yeah,
she caught you like probably near the worst of it, huh?
Yeah. Like I said, yeah, she was the only person to not bail, in a sense. So like, and so I'm sitting there like, she deserves this and I haven't been able to give it to her ever. And she's, so like there's that was tough, it was, I mean, the good kind of tough, it was happy. And, I was, I'm fortunate to be been present enough in the moment to like understand, I have all these things, but there's also the positive, like I get to, I'm going to get to be so much of a better husband for you, so now, that opens up so much. And like I said, then there was just like, honestly, it was a lot of rebalancing. I didn't realize how much, like I always knew that some part, like some one of the ways I used to explain to people about like, like that, that felt like they really wanted to understand what I was dealing with. I was like, in a sense, it's almost like the water torture, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it just never stopped. That water never stopped dripping. And eventually with that one drop that didn't hurt, eventually becomes the worst, it just won't stop.
Right.
I didn't realize how the percentage of my brain that was going towards managing that so that I could stay functional. Yeah. And then like, I would just buzz. Like I would have these moments where like, I would have less pain after the surgery and I would just be all over the place. Like I joked, I was just pinging. I was all over the freaking place. Yeah. It was the first time as an adult, because this happened when I was 21 or 22. Basically the first time as an adult, I felt like I had access to my brain.
Yeah, well, certainly your brain was really allocating resources. The neurology is such an amazing system that finds ways to just help you exist and function.
Exactly. The human body will adapt
survival mode at all times. You said, before we started the recording, you said at some point during that process, you found RPR, the RPR system, reflexive performance reset by Cal Dietz and JL Holdsworth and that whole team over there. At what point during this was prior to the surgery that you?
I've been used.
Right?
I was doing RPR in my hospital bed.
Did you find that to be effective during the process of management?
So it did a little bit for me, pain management wise, more
Right.
about the fact that you could kind of keep that, that diaphragm reset and breathe,
Right.
Breath work and breathing was a big part of management and still is for me.
Right.
It would help a little bit on the function side whenever things were getting really screwy. Again, it would allow me to, turn it, try turn it off.
There's only so much you can do, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you're
RPR,
talking major injury to the nervous system, and it's just trying to function. So, I mean, as an anchor for you, that became a major coping mechanism, I would imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, in a sense, yeah, it definitely did. Like it definitely helped. It was very effective, and like I got out of it pretty much everything I hoped to get out of it, to be honest. And then what was even better, like I said, like it didn't get rid of the pain from the complex regional pain syndrome, but it helped put me in a better position to manage it.
Yeah, absolutely. If for
which
nothing
is really
else, it helps you reset your mind in a lot of ways and get some of those firing patterns to at least help you function a little bit better, right?
Yeah, there's a little exactly. There's a little bit of confidence that you get from something like that. And then what's awesome is then I had built that big base with it, so that when I came out of surgery, whenever the body's trying to protect, the new limb, it doesn't want the quad. It doesn't really want the quad and hamstring to fire.
Right.
Well, I want the quad and hamstring to fire. So that was a huge help. Like when I was doing like some of the physical therapy stuff, you could see it. Yeah, like I could see it. Like I should have filmed more of this sort of stuff. I just didn't want to like try to do anything for a camera. I didn't, like it's really common in like Olympic weightlifting where people will like, they'll try to hit that top set and then they miss it. And then they'll go for it 6 more times because they want that one on tape because they know they can.
Right.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't putting myself in that sort of a position.
Right.
But no, it would be absolutely like I would struggle with something. I'd be like, oh, okay. Then I'd hit my quad reset. And then I'd have better action out of the footing already, like right away. So that's the thing I do in the morning before I put my leg on.
No, yeah. I mean, you talk about the anchors that people need to find as part of their continuum of care, and what it is you connect with. Clearly, you connected with RPR as a system for helping you to function, and then through that process, you actually laid the foundations for having your body better prepared for that surgery, which is huge trauma in and of itself. I mean, you feel better, but
I had a 9-hour surgery.
That's an immediate disconnect from an entire piece of hardware in your system. And then, but because of that process, you transitioned out, and now in the last year, you say you've been getting your entire body a lot stronger, even without an entire section of your leg.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, I've only had my leg for 4 months.
Right. Which is, I mean, that's massive. I mean, the stuff that I've seen you do personally is I know a lot of grown adults and high level athletes who can't do what you do. So again, tremendous effort and coaching and programming on your part. As part of that process, you also then discovered the breath belt as part of your recovery process, which is also, for me, was a connection that was made with RPR and Kabuki Strength, all those guys. How has the breath belt helped you in reinventing your programming and just the overall personal experience you've had with that?
I wouldn't say that it's necessarily reinvented my programming, but it's allowed me to get more out of less. So like, for example, where, an exercise, and I'm a proponent of RDLs at all weights. I am a proponent of heavy RDLs, just as much as I'd like light ones. But what I found is that especially right now, I can get a lot more out of relatively lighter weights whenever I've got that breath belt going on, because I've got better, it helps cue everything into the right spot. So once you have that base in a nice strong place, to stick with the RPR methodology, zone 1, diaphragm, psoas, and glutes. So that's your foundation. You can only build as tall as as your base is wide.
Absolutely.
So I get better firing out of it. So when I'm wearing that, well, I can get better recruitment out of my hamstrings just on that alone. Right. Therefore, I'm finding I don't need as much weight to tax the hamstrings, which then for me becomes very useful, because I've got the other challenge in my day of I've got to be able to be in good shape to use my prosthetic. As an adaptive athlete, one of the things the Adaptive Training Academy course taught me was, or that they call it their fuel gauge mentality, is that, an adaptive athlete needs to make sure they're still leaving the gym with enough gas in the tank to utilize and get around all day.
Absolutely. Yeah. To be able to still function.
Yeah, exactly. Like your quads being on fire or being fried and your hammies being fried, that's a thing you're used, it's a thing that just happens with training. And sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes you just didn't see it coming or this, that, or the other. But for me, it's really important to avoid that as much as I can. Like that needs to be a minimal thing for me now.
Huge. Yeah. Well,
And
that mindset of not burning the engine, right? I mean,
I have to leave gas
out of
in
your
the tank
training,
where I
but
didn't used
also
to
be
have
able to function by the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, if I'm that trashed, I'm not going to be able to use my prosthetic well. If I don't use my prosthetic well, my gate's off. And if my gate's off, well, that's why so many amputees have hip and knee issues.
Right, right. What does that look like for you from a programming perspective in your own training and what it is you do to adjust so that you aren't burning the engine too much?
So we do it for right now, for the most part. And I work with a coach, Tom Stroke. He's got a gym, the Strength Agenda up in Chicago. Him and I we've developed a great relationship as far as training. Him and I are kind of in the similar place as far as like where we prioritize our athleticism and our coaching from a time and energy standpoint. And honestly, I think that I value coaching. It's why I coach, because I think coaching is valuable. I think I'd be kind of nuts to not also pursue coaching for myself. Yeah. So what we do is for a lot of our compound lifts, we work pretty relative. And, I've got almost 12 years of training under my belt. Obviously most of that pre-amputation. So like, I've got a good idea on how to use an RPE type method, or just in general, like just knowing what I need to do or to not do for the day. My socket fit's not right. And he's like, hey, it's 12x2 deadlifts, build as you need to. Well, maybe I'm just not going to build very far, but I'm going to make sure I still get the movement in. And, I'm more focused on, honestly, we haven't really done a big strength building block at all yet. It's all been, let's put Sam in a position to challenge movement patterns with some but both develop your basic squat, hinge, push, pull, all that sort of stuff, and then throw in some variations to then challenge the skill side of things,
build systems for better function. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That's the way I approach my own coaching. Is I use strength as a tool to build better function. We use strength training to build function, not, because I do coach athletes that like to compete, but most of my athletes don't, so that's
just human beings living their life, right?
Correct. So, following, meaning that everything's general, everything's GPP. That's really what we're just training on function. Am I hinging better? Am I staying balanced? Because it's really easy to find yourself shifting over towards your sound limb because it's a lot stronger, because there's a lot more of it. We're determined for me to not be that guy. I want, there's nothing wrong with it, but like I've got this rare opportunity where I get to be brand new, but also have a decade of knowledge and experience.
Right.
I want to see what's really possible as far as that's concerned. There's a lot of things I got told.
The journey is just beginning, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely. It's really interesting. I don't even really have a good parallel to it, but it's kind of like that. I get to be a white belt again in the weight room. But
with all of the knowledge, with all of the prior knowledge coming.
Exactly. How often, like, how many times have you told somebody with explaining their program, like, hey, if I knew everything I knew now on day one, this is what I'd be doing instead of what I did.
It's like restarting. I'm
getting to put all my methods,
having beat it already.
Yeah. So like I'm getting to put all my concepts, all my methods, all my philosophy to the test. So like I said, so far we're passing the test. So it is kind of cool. Most coaches don't ever get this opportunity. By the time that they're a coach, they've already accomplished this, that, or the other. I get to put everything that I view as all my philosophies. I get to put them all to the test in a major way right now, and it's passing the test so far.
Yeah, and well, I mean, that's one of the best ways to build a great coaching career and brand is ultimately you're your own guinea pig, and as you kind of sift through what works for you, you start to figure out what works for your clients and what doesn't work for them as well. And you'll start to really be able to organize some pretty amazing and intuitive programs as opposed to just being so rigid. I think I think
Yeah,
we're
I'm not trying to fit
really
anybody
starting to
into a
see that
box.
shift of intuitive programming and training overall, and just figuring out that, maybe not everyone is going to connect with the barbell versus the dumbbell versus
Mhm.
this tool versus that tool, and strength as a tool versus breath work as a tool.
Mhm.
Those are all
Or
aspects of training that have their place in the toolbox, but not, not
or
every situation
viewing
is for a
strength.
hammer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, viewing strength as a tool instead of a goal.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You know, you're
Especially for the average general population, and particularly the adaptive population, where there's going to be limitations to that. And if you're not dealing with a competitive athlete, then you really should look at prioritizing function like you've done with
Mhm.
yourself. If I stick to this rigid workout for today and what is set on the paper, how am I going to actually be able to function, and how is this going to potentially be dangerous to me for the rest of my day? Yeah, I got that workout in, but now I can't even think
Mhm.
straight or move straight, more importantly, as I go
None,
throughout
none of
the day. So,
none of my lifts are going on my tombstone.
right, exactly. Well, man,
I failed.
uh,
I was a really bad person if that happens.
so with all of this in mind, obviously you're on your personal journey right now, but it really seems like you're really on the path towards helping a lot of other people and getting involved. Do
I'm
you
way better
have
at
any
that.
plans to move beyond this?
Yeah, I am. I'm way better at coaching than I am at being an athlete. 100%. Like I'm an overachiever. Athletically speaking, I'm an overachiever for my skill set. I was 4'11", 95 pounds my freshman year of high school.
Wow.
Yeah, to put that into perspective, that's
Right.
the genetics I'm working with. So I'm sorry, could you do that question again?
Yeah, no. So, what are your plans to take this experience that you've gone through, which is, very unique, but I'm sure many people have gone through it and you don't even know it yet. And the people who are going to
Mhm.
come out of the woodwork, man, I'm excited to see what's going to happen with you and your story, and what you end up building. If you do intend to, in fact, go that route, what are you hoping to do with your experience as this thing evolves into what I imagine is going to be its own sort of programming and lifestyle building around being an adaptive athlete, or
You
just
know,
an
I
adaptive human in general?
you know, I'll always be trying to help people. That's what I know. I know that whatever route I go, it's going to be because I think it's going to allow me to positively influence others' progress. Like I talked about, progress is my thing, man. Like I don't play sled hockey because there's a chance at a gold medal. Because that's a Paralympic sport. There's a gold medal there. I play sled hockey because I love it and I love hockey, and there's so much to get better at, and that's the motivating factor. And like I said, I'm an overachiever already. I don't see that being on my path. Um, but that doesn't mean, I'm not going to, attack it hard. And so I want to, like I said, I want to help people with that full 360 degrees. Like it wasn't just the gym that helped me or saved me, but it was a huge part of it. It wasn't just meditation that helped me and saved me, but it was a big part. It wasn't just nutrition. It wasn't just life, it's all of that working together. So basically I just my plan here is I finally feel like I've got options that I can pursue because I'm not in constant pain, knowing that it's going to keep getting worse, which is where I was at. So I'm just going to kind of keep my eyes and ears open for opportunities, see where I can go help people, where I can, like I said, just kind of put on a display of things that have worked for me that I feel like a lot of people have been told that's not an option. You
Yeah,
know,
well, definitely,
like
I
you're not
can
going to be able to do
definitely
this.
identify with that.
So like, yeah, so like there's so many things, if you would have asked the doctor, hey, can somebody with, if he's going to get his foot cut off, is he going to you think he'll be able to deadlift 500 pounds? Probably going to say no.
Right.
I did it in 3 months. Um, I did 3 months after I had a leg. So it's like one of those things. It's like, we've not actually, it doesn't seem like, and I'm also really lucky. I'm coming into this golden age of devices, legs, and there are people that I'm not one of the guys laying the groundwork. Those guys have already been working. And luckily a handful of those guys have been really excited to have me. I've been welcomed into the community. We think that you can help us because they agree with me. There's a whole lot more on the table for adaptive people, for adaptive guys and gals. So
Humans in
that's
general,
kind of,
man. I mean, the
yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I mean,
we're just catching back up with the what is the peak of human potential and continuing to tick more notches on the belt for pushing the boundaries of what
I
people are
mean,
capable of. And man, to limit ourselves to what we know today and let that get in the way of what we may know tomorrow is foolhardy at
crazy.
best.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely plan to have, I plan to scale up, just kind of scale up coaching as people want to listen. Um, that's really that's really kind of my goal there, is like to continue to scale programs up to, like right now I work at a CrossFit gym with 100 something members in it. And, right now I get the privilege to impact their lives in a positive way. Well, actually on a daily basis now. I do all the programming for our gym as well. But I found that, it's really more about how I modify and not about how I program for my able-bodied athletes compared to my adaptive athletes.
Right.
I definitely plan on diving deeper into I hope to dive it deeper into the adaptive community, as far as like helping out more adaptive athletes and more, so I can do that. But yeah, like I said, there's just so much more potential. Like, I mean, for how long were people certain that you could not get the same athlete to deadlift 500 pounds and run a 5-minute mile in the same day? CrossFit's provided 3 of those, I think.
Right, exactly.
No, I think someone did it as a back squat. I think someone did a 500-pound back squat and then ran a 5-minute mile.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know how many times I heard that is impossible, that is impossible, that is impossible, when Greg Glassman said it. Didn't turn out to be the greatest guy, but that is something that the founder of CrossFit said when he first started. He was like, CrossFit's is eventually going to provide a human being that can do this.
yeah.
And years down the line, it's happened. I mean, it's wild.
For better, for worse, we are sprinting towards figuring out what it is the human potential actually is, and the technology is obviously going to be there pretty soon, I would say, to help us figure that out even more. But from the very human side, the very human experience side, what sort of a mindset can you impart upon the overall general audience, not just adaptive athletes, but just people in general, that you've gleaned from your experience thus far, and what it is you'd like to imbue into your programming and your eventual brand, I'm sure. What is that mindset you'd like people to sort of take on and take from your experience as they move forward from seeing this today?
I don't know, probably where I started, man. It's progress is always an option. I do believe that the whole "you can be anything you want" is a load. I could have had the best basketball coach in the world, best nutrition, best diet, and guess what? I was never going to the NBA. These genetics were never going to the NBA. However, I could have continued to get better and better and better and better. And if that's worth it, then then you have to be okay with that. Like, if you get tied to somebody else's end game, there's no winning, because even if you achieve it, what's next?
Yeah.
Like if the only reason I'm playing sled hockey is a gold medal, I either don't get the gold medal, and then all this awesome time that I spent on the ice with all these great guys, gets viewed as a failure, or I get the gold medal, and what's next?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's that's kind of the whole, I think, concept behind, how we get to a place of achievement has less to do with the end goal and more to do with the process, right? And
exactly
how it is you frame the process, and how it is you frame success in general.
Asking yourself those questions, and I think that's tough. I think a lot of people, and I think COVID and less person-to-person interaction and all that has really revealed that as a society, we really don't like to ask ourselves questions. We kind of want to hop on and latch on to something, and I understand the comfort that comes from it. But man, once you get out of that, you start to see the prison that it puts you in.
Yeah.
You're stuck. You're stuck once you do that but the reality is, again, you always have that choice to make. You always have the choice to go make that progress and get out of that. For some people, it's as trivial as the powerlifting program that they like to do. And For others, it's a religion that they don't actually connect with, but they're afraid to not, but they're afraid to not keep going because they don't know. But man, once you ask the question, the first time is the hardest time. It gets easier after that. No,
Well, you said it. You said it earlier on. You said you were lucky enough to find some way to remain present, and for all the great things that we should do to look to the future and improve, and there's a lot to be done in the present to do that, right?
correct. And that's where everything happens.
Yeah, that's where everything at one way or another you're going to have to worry about today and what needs to be done today to get better. I think that's where we all kind of converge on each other in the world of coaching. My entire system is live kinetically, right? And what does that mean for you to make you better? The constant pursuit of better, every breath stronger, every step stronger, all these different concepts, being anti-fragile from the Kabuki guys, right?
I already tossed one of those stickers on my socket.
What can I do here, now, today to get better? Even if that means just taking a breath and stopping and recentering and getting back into the moment, as opposed to being, letting the fear and anxiety take over. Or maybe it's, all right, I am going to get this workout that's written down on the paper, and to hell with what happens afterwards today. Because sometimes we're just in that mood, right?
And sometimes it's worth it. Like,
hey, you're right.
But
you step up to that,
but you don't know unless you
think for 1 second you're going to pull that weight, and by God, you do it, and you feel even better for it the rest of the day. So
correct. I mean, sometimes it is worth it, but you don't actually know that if you don't ask yourself that question.
Right.
Like,
stop and ask questions and figure out for you what is better for you today.
Yeah, it's like, sure, like I said, everything happens in the present. The past isn't changing, and the future's a myth.
For sure. Well, I like that. I was looking at your Instagram profile there. Do you have a website or anything?
I don't. No, I am very. My coaching business is not very virtual right now.
Well, I'm really hoping to see you continue to grow in that way. But I loved what I saw, which is don't give up the ship. Right.
Yep. I love that one. I've got that.
That's a U.S. Navy admiral, I want to say.
Man, I feel so bad because I love this quote so much, and then every time I'm on the spot trying to cite it, I'm like,
it's a great quote, one way or another, right? Don't give up the ship. One way or another, don't give up the ship. There's plenty of ways that we fail on a daily basis, but if we remain resilient, if we remain focused, stay in the present, focus on the next best step, then can't really go wrong, I'd say.
Yep. No, absolutely. That is definitely, it's one of those quotes that when things were like really down, that I really clung to. Like I said, like I said, eventually I'll have something with, at the very least, if not those words, that theme tattooed on me.
I can see it now, man. I have great. I personally have great visions for you and what could be done with your work and your story, man. It's a tremendous testimony. I have personally, it's awesome for me. I love to take the opportunity to learn from guys like you, because it's an entirely different experience from my own. And I think if everybody took that mentality and took this time to be present, ask those questions of ourselves and of others, then that's one of the biggest aspects of the human experience is connecting. And that's why I love doing this kind of stuff, man. So thank you so much for stopping in to do this. I'm going to make sure that everybody can find you, at least on Instagram, until we can get you a website.
Instagram is the way to go to find me.
At Sam Schaefer 1, correct?
Yes. SAM.
I'm going to make sure to drop the linkage there.
Perfect. Because there's like 35 ways to spell Schaefer.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure all of your linkage is available there. Everyone who's tuning in on this, when we get to post it up, it's going to be on YouTube as well as bits and pieces of it on Instagram for teasers and things of that nature. But I'll make sure to have the linkage in there in my bio and for the YouTube channel when the time comes. But make sure to go ahead and follow Sam Schaefer at Sam Schaefer 1 on Instagram. We'll also be posting this on YouTube to help you guys not give up the ship and live kinetically. So Sam, thank you again so much for joining us, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me on, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, great time. All right.